Just got Challenger, time to express my Season 8 experience so far with MordekaiserMai. 517 games on Mord with 56% win rate so far this season. As an aspiring Mord main, who just played him non-stop since the first time I picked him up in mid-Season 7, Season 8 changes have been a nightmare for me. And that in X2, we lost a bunch of scaling HP from runes, like 9 Emerven if I remember correctly and flat 15 AP. And what did we get? But the biggest loss was the removal of both SRS and DFT, and for me, it was SRS. As for SRS issue, phase rush just can in X27. T come close, pre or post buff that it got recently. The main issue with this was when I started using Glacial Augment as a discount SRS against mobility champs even way before it got buffed, since you only need one hit, an approach velocity will grant you a 10% MS boost against slowed enemy, effectively making it a 30% MS boost against normal champs. If the enemy had MS buff of their own, it increases it in X27's value. Sadly Inspirate Death Fire Touch event, though I barely played with it back in Season 7, it was still a good rune that helped Mord scales his damage into mid-game. Airy was our replay. To finish about rune issue, we got 2 discount SRS runes, one that offers way too much downsides Glacial Augment, no resolve tree secondary against hard matchups, one that is better in general, arguably the best for Mord ATM, but very awkward to process phase rush. Way worse scaling. So what became of Mord before patch 8.11? We have a subpar. 8.11 patch was a godsend for bot lane Mord with all the nerfs to ADCs, especially crit meta ADCs that straight up outscale Mord, while generally either bully Mord, so hard it and X27's not funny Zaya, Caitlyn, or were just way too hard to snowball off them Tistana. Now we have less, but after all of that, I still believe top Mord is your best bet to climb until you get to D23. Why? I don't in X27. Know about others, but I find farm lanes boring and painful to play. Ironic cause I play tank Zion top, I actually enjoy this dude top lol, which is why I avoided mid lane before and bot lane now since I just want to brawl all day, but I can in X27. T4/punish 1v1 all in on top lane like S7, and have to wait for my support to do stuffs down bot. At the end of the day, Mord for me ATM and has been, since Season 8 started, not functioning on his own. You either have to wait. Sorry for my English if I offend anyone, I just like to rant from time to time how bad Mord solo lanes or by himself is. Do I think he needs saying very defensively is quite a stretch, it and X27's just the 2 core relay, Leandry then most of the times cheap supportive items like Locket, Night Vow, into more tank. Pretty much abuse. The sad thing though, it was my only excuse to play Mord event though. There were more banner abusers that just straight up did that job better than him like Singed, Zion, Makai, Ornn. A subreddit dedicated to the League of Legends champion Mordekaiser. Subscribe and you only need to click once, fool. A subreddit dedicated to all things Mordekaiser. Join the discussion. MordekaiserMains Discord servers. Follow standard. All posts must be related to Mordekaiser. No post regarding fan-made reworks as Riot has announced a rework of their own is coming. No direct advertisements. No personal information. No low-quality posts. Excessive hateful speech will be removed. No NSFW material. Necessary and proper clause. We can do what is deemed necessary to carry out our jobs.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,